Hi, I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Charlie.
And this is the Jug O Sip podcast.
You can find us on Google and all social media at Jug O Sip Podcast.
New episodes release every Monday and Friday.
All right, back at it again.
You always start out every episode with all right.
Yeah, I know.
Have you considered changing it up? Come in like Shazam or something. I don't know.
I mean, that's just the way I start. I don't really have a preference.
I just think it's funny. I just wanted, because how many episodes are we up to now? Like, are we in our 20s at this point?
Almost. This is episode 17. Typically, I don't, but I should probably just start cutting out the part where I say all right, because...
No, I think it's funny. We should take a compilation of all your all rights and create like a remix or something.
That's like on Joe Rogan. Every time he refers to one of his friends, he says a buddy of mine.
Yeah.
And somebody made a compilation of him saying that, and every time he said it, the last video's buddy of mine will repeat, and it was, I don't know, it was like 70 or 80 of them.
The thing is, he gets that. That's a California and Arizona thing.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. So I learned that because in Arizona and California, I don't know if it's like the other like West states, but like Western states, but
yeah.
I lived in Arizona, as you know, and a lot of people probably know, I lived there for a few years. I learned a lot of the slang from my ex-girlfriend, Emily. She talked like that.
Right.
That's also where I learned the phrase flipping a bitch.
Right. Yeah.
For U-turns.
You told me about.
But anytime Emily would be like, so we're going to go, instead of being like, we're going to go to a friend's house tonight, or we're going to go to so-and-so's house, she'd be like, a buddy of mine's having a party.
Yeah.
And that's always how it kind of starts. But it's a West Coast thing.
Well, okay.
So he probably does that
picked
Cali
it up.
thing.
Yeah, because I think he's from Boston originally.
Yeah, I think so too. He probably, and I mean, it's easy. I picked up that lingo really easily in like the 3 years I was out there, and he's been in LA way longer than I've been, and I was in Arizona. But anyway.
So this episode we wanted, well, something happened on YouTube today. I mean, not YouTube, Hulu today. I made that mistake in the last episode too. I wanted to talk about...
They have that ooh sound to them, and it makes you want to say...
I said YouTube when I meant Hulu. Anyway, something happened on Hulu today that depressed me. And why don't you tell them? Because I'm still emotional about it.
Honey, you knew this was coming for weeks. Don't act like that you just found out.
Just tell them what happened.
Okay, they took South Park off of Hulu, which, I mean, it was already bad for our family, but... South Park is like one of Charlie's go-to favorite shows. Like, I love it, but he watches it as background noise all the time. Like, I watch Big Mouth.
I've been watching South Park for so long that I was the same age as the boys were in the early seasons. So when they didn't get certain sex jokes, I also didn't get it with them.
Right. I mean, we were like, I actually think it came out. What year did it come out? Was
99.
99? I was actually in fourth grade. I was actually like their age, literally their age.
Right.
The thing is, the reason I don't watch it as frequently as you do is because I've seen almost every episode so many times that, like, if I watch it too much, I know I'm going to get sick of it.
Right.
But that said, I wasn't allowed to watch South Park as a kid. I was told that was a bad show. So when I was like, I didn't start watching it till I was like a teen.
Well, the reason I watched it so early is because... Well, I mean, my mom was asleep all the time. She didn't know what was going on.
Well, yeah, you were left unattended in ways that I wasn't. Like, I was after a while, but I was a little older.
Yeah, and she didn't. I'm not sure she even really was aware that the show existed. I just knew that if she found out, she would have likely told me not to, or at least that's what I thought at the time. I realized later that also wasn't true. But yeah, so they took South Park off of Hulu, and I don't know where it went, but I'm depressed now.
Real quick, actually. I was left home alone a lot at 9 too. I think I was just afraid to break the rules for a while. And then finally I was just like, no one's here. What am I fucking doing?
Right.
But yeah, so they took it off. Charlie is, I don't know, like, he's depressed. I don't think he's suicide watch depressed, but I think he's depressed.
I'm extremely upset. I'm livid.
He's hurt.
I'm very hurt by Hulu.
And betrayed.
They did this to me personally.
Or was it Matt and Trey? That's the thing. Who can you really blame?
I blame Hulu for now, because if I find out that Matt and Trey did, they are not, those people aren't going to break my heart.
Charles, are you looking for someone to blame because you're hurting? Is that what it is? Are you looking for someone to blame?
They can't do this to me. They did it to me personally.
No, first of all,
that was what happened.
There's a lot of South Park fans out there, Charles.
They saw my Hulu account and they took it off because I was on there, and
why would they target you specifically?
I don't know.
Anyway, the reason we bring up all of this, besides the fact that Charlie's not okay. We want to talk about a specific topic regarding South Park, specifically Devouring Mother.
Yeah, we were talking about Mrs. Cartman, Eric Cartman's mom.
Specifically.
And she's a devouring mother. And I'm sure most people can figure out exactly what that is, but I got the definition.
It's pretty self-explanatory, but yeah.
Yeah, I got the definition pulled up here on the computer, so I'm just going to read it. The devouring mother consumes her children psychologically and emotionally. And often instills them feelings of guilt at leaving her or becoming independent. This is a quote by Carolyn. It says Carolyn Miss?
Yeah, Carolyn Miss.
Okay,
Caroline Miss.
Caroline Miss, yeah. It's just, there was an ellipsis there. I thought maybe they cut her last name off. But yeah, it's Caroline Miss.
And here's the thing about Mrs. Cartman. This is a very, very common problem. A lot of times mothers in general will project their own feelings into their kids because they have hurt they haven't healed from before they became parents. But with her, it runs very deep. The reason Eric Cartman is such a disturbed individual is because his mom raised him the way she did. Now, I'm not saying Eric Cartman's mom isn't well-intended, and I'm not saying she doesn't love her son. It's very clear she loves her son, but the problem is she loves him too much. And that's where it gets to be a little bit out of control.
They really go into
Liane Cartman. Her name's Liane. Yeah, I forgot her first name.
Yeah, I always forget her first name, too. Her first name's Liane. They really go into this in this episode called... Yeah, that's the name of the episode. I didn't just make a sound that wasn't the microphone glitching out. That's the name of the episode. For those who are not
South Park fans or are younger and didn't really remember this episode because they were too young to watch it, there's an episode called which is based on the dog whisperer. He was referenced in the show, Cesar Millan.
Season 10, and episode 7.
The reason it's called is Cesar Millan has this method. My mom actually did this training her dogs. And it worked like a charm because we had a lot of dogs. We had like 7 dogs. And you kind of just gently use your fingers to like nip at the neck of the dog and say to establish dominance if they're out of line. That's what dogs do to other dogs. They nip each other's neck. So when they tried every nanny TV show on, in this episode of South Park, they tried Super Nanny, Nanny 911 to try to get Cartman to behave. And that guy literally destroyed the lives of 2 women. He pointed out to one that she might be barren and completely broke her, and he drove the other one into a mental institution eating her own shit.
Yeah, they didn't even show exactly what he did.
They didn't need to. We know exactly. Like, first of all, one of Eric Cartman's best episodes was when he fucking literally murdered someone's parents and put it in a chili and made this boy's favorite band come and make fun of him while he ate his dead parents.
Scott Tenorman.
Yeah, Scott Tenorman Must Die was probably one of my favorite episodes of South Park because it really shows the depth of Cartman's psychosis.
Right.
This kid is nothing to play with, and he's this fucked up at age 9. And so during the episode with Cesar Millan, during the episode where she got the dog whisperer to come because she was desperate for her child just to cooperate, it's sort of revealed that his mother's a very lonely person. For whatever reason, his father's not in the picture. She clearly has abandonment issues, according to, judging by her behavior and what they've discussed in that particular episode. So, in the episode, it ends with Cartman was acting perfectly fine after Cesar Millan worked with him. But when Cesar rejected Liane's affections in a romantic fashion and said she was just a client, she immediately turned to that abandonment and pain and bribed her son to love her by saying she was going to go buy him toys and stuff and just starting the cycle of spoiling him and encouraging his behavior all over again.
Once again, this is a Jungian moment for us. Apparently,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
because everything I say is Jungian. I don't even know sometimes.
The devouring mother is an archetype. And for those who know Carl Jung, the concept of archetypes was something that I don't think he invented it necessarily, but he
spoke a lot about.
Yeah, he kind of claimed it.
I don't think he invented it, but he definitely worked with it a lot.
Yeah, he claimed it and used it as a way to explain specific categories of human behavior and like personality patterns. And the devouring mother was one of those archetypes. Let's go into a little bit more what that even is, because I don't know if we necessarily had devouring mother situations or even knew of anybody that did, but maybe we did. Let's
I think you
did,
for what I know.
Well, let me think about it. I mean, my mom was, I mean, she has had mental illnesses her whole life. And throughout my childhood, she was not an easy person to live around. She was abusive to me and all 5 of my siblings. She tried to
make you codependent, though. That's what I'm speaking of specifically.
Okay, well, yeah, okay. So I'll go into that. So basically, when I was younger, I very much wanted to be an independent person. And I wasn't the kind of kid that wanted to, like, you know, run the streets or anything like that. Especially not in Harlem, because, you know, Harlem at the time, it was still very much a hood in the worst possible ways you can imagine before gentrification. But I was the kind of kid that liked being out. Oh, excuse me. I liked being outside. I liked athletics.
You liked having the option to leave if you wanted.
Yeah, I liked exploring. I had a sense of adventure. My mom, on the other hand, did not want me to leave the house. She didn't want me. She wanted to shelter me, and that's what she did. She forced me to stay in the house all the time.
She also never taught you how to cook or do anything for yourself, even proper.
Well, hold on, I was getting to that, but yeah, it was pretty much that. Like she kept me in the house all the time, and then she didn't teach me certain things like cooking, or, you know, like I had to learn to do laundry on my own because I basically had to tell her one day to stop doing my laundry. Like I got into an argument with her over it because after a certain point, it all felt like these systems of control. There was even a point where I was in senior year of high school and I was fighting for years to just get a job at a GameStop or something just before the recession hit, back when getting entry-level jobs like that were a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And she refused to give me like the paperwork or you know, because at the time I was too young, so I needed like working papers that she needed to sign. She refused to participate in any of that. She didn't want me to have a job. She didn't want me to go to college. One day I finally asked her, what was her problem? Like, why didn't she want me to do anything? Her answer was at the time her answer was she was afraid of getting old. And the only reason she agreed to having me with my dad is because she had me when she was approaching middle age. She figured that she would have somebody young to take care of her because at the time she was afraid of getting old.
So, yeah.
Which she aged very well. So and she acknowledged that. She was like, I aged well, so it's fine. But nevertheless, that was still very disturbing for me because what my mom didn't know is that her actions were basically robbing me of a future.
And a devouring mother will have a child for the wrong reasons, for selfish reasons, to have a companion, to have a friend, to fill the void of an abandoned husband or partner. Whatever reason that they don't feel complete, a lot of people will have children to feel complete. And then once they have the children, we'll find out, obviously, this small person cannot have that kind of responsibility on you. And they cannot complete you because only we can complete ourselves. But then they're stuck with this kid that they had because they needed to feel complete. So they just spend the entire time trying to either turn this kid into a little them or trying to keep them around so they have companionship, even if it's against their will. In fact, you know what?
Yeah.
My old friend JC, her mom was a devouring mother.
Oh, yeah. Go into that.
Well, this friend and I we don't speak anymore, but because it's kind of a personal thing, so I'm not going to go into details, but basically her mother didn't want her to have like jobs. She homeschooled her till she was a certain age. She only let her hang out with certain kids. The mom was deeply religious and obsessed with controlling my friend in every facet. It came to a point where my friend literally had to like run away from home in her 20s. She was still living at home in her early 20s with her mom, and like her mom had left the day for errands, and while she was gone, my friend literally took the opportunity to fucking flee.
Wow.
Like,
yeah, she never came back. That's right.
She hates her parents.
Right.
And her mom, as we were kids growing up, her mom would try to make her be a majorette because her mom was a majorette.
What's a majorette?
Oh, I forgot. You didn't grow up in white suburban towns. So a majorette is sort of like a cheerleader. They're usually in marching bands, though. You'll see the girls and they twirl the batons.
Oh.
That's a majorette.
Oh, okay.
They're part of the band as far as like the whole... It's a very interesting skill. Like, majorette skills are not easy. Twirling a baton is difficult.
Right.
Let alone those badass chicks out there twirling fire batons.
Right.
But like she tried, and even my friend had dark hair. She had Mediterranean features, and her mom like basically fried my friend's hair to make her blonde like her.
Oh my God. Yeah,
like, and my mom was sort of a devouring mom, but my mom was more like a snowplow parent.
A snowplow parent?
They're a step above a helicopter parent, where they literally snowplow your life to make you be exactly what you want them. They want you to be. Look it up. Look up the exact definition.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up now.
My mom was the opposite. She tried to keep me codependent and then yelled at me for not being independent enough. Like she would hover over me at my school thing, and she made me get a planner for my school homework, and like made my teacher sign off on it when I did my homework, or to make sure I did everything correctly. Like she hovered and micromanaged every little thing I did.
Wow, okay. Yeah, I just found the definition. I'm going to read it.
Yeah, I can
actually you read it, yeah.
The snowplow parent is defined as a person who constantly forces obstacles out of their kid's path. They have their eye on the future success of their child, and anyone or anything that stands in their way has to be removed. And that is a fact. My mom was my biggest enemy, and because she snowplowed my life so hard, she wouldn't let me develop as a person, then would scream at me because I wasn't acting the way she wanted me to. But the reason I wasn't is because I had zero independence for myself.
Right. Yeah, well, I never heard that term before. That's interesting.
It's more intense than a helicopter parent. A helicopter, because the symbolism makes sense. Helicopter parents hover over. A snowplow parent literally plows through and destroys your whole life.
So it's like if they were crashing a helicopter into you every time you made a decision, almost.
Except when they didn't crash it into me. They crashed it into a bank near me and was like, everything you're doing is wrong. Stop it.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And then it creates self-doubt and fear to the point where I'm at 31 still fighting anxiety because every decision I make gives me anxiety.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's rough.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's different ways to so technically devour your child.
Yeah.
But in the way that Eric Cartman's mother is very different.
Yeah. Liane. Well, that's what's so pervasive about this particular thing. It's not just what the devouring is doing by itself. It's what the devouring does to the kid. Like Cartman is he's got antisocial personality disorder.
Right.
Like severe. I mean, there are episodes where he's abused people. He's faked people's deaths. He's murdered people. He shot Token once.
Didn't he give Kyle AIDS?
He gave Kyle AIDS. Let's see what else. He gave Kyle AIDS. He murdered Scott Tenorman's parents, or he had them murdered. He shot Token. He's tried to completely assassinate Wendy Testerberger's character.
He's
on multiple
also a
occasions.
neo-Nazi.
Yes, he's a neo-Nazi.
He's tried to have hippies murdered.
Yeah, he tried to have them exterminated like they were animals. He had South Park build him a machine that was literally murdering giant crowds of hippies.
Yeah.
Because they had
trapping and killing people.
Yeah,
And keep in mind, this boy is only 9 years old. And now, yes, it is very possible to be born with psychopathy and sociopathy. But I don't think this would have been as bad without Liane's doing.
I actually found an article on Reddit where somebody decided to break down Cartman's psychology. Now,
good.
Could you do me a favor? Could you read this? Because the position of the mic is like making me angle in a way where I can't see.
I'm going to need you to move your big head, though. Vision.
Yeah, so you read that. And
put your hands down. I can't see. Okay. So where would you like me to start? Let's just start with the...
Yeah.
Okay, being a psychopath and sociopath is, in layman terms, for two psychiatric conditions. Conduct disorder, CD, and antisocial personality disorder, ASPD. The hallmarks of these disorders are a total and utter disregard towards the rights of other human and living beings. A complete lack of empathy, repeated behaviors violating the rights of beings, remorselessness, and impulsiveness. And CD is when a condition is diagnosed in children, and ASPD is when the condition is diagnosed in adults. Here are the main diagnostic criteria for ASPD, and according to DSM-4. Now, before I get to this, I want to make it clear. Sociopaths can be made. Psychopaths are born. You can be a psychopath without sociopathy, and you can be a sociopath without psychopathy, but they usually will go hand in hand, varying on the person.
Right.
1. Failure to obey laws and norms by engaging in their behavior in which results in criminal arrest or warrant criminal arrest. 2, lying, deception, and manipulation for profit and self-amusement. 3, impulsive behavior. 4, irritability and aggression, manifested as frequently assaults others or engages in fighting. 5, blatantly disregards safety or of self or others. 6, a pattern of irresponsibility. 7, a lack of remorse of actions. This is by the American Psychiatric Association by circa 2013. Gee, that also sounds like our president.
Yeah, I was going to say, all of that sounds like Donald Trump.
That sounds like Donald Trump's entire Twitter feed.
Yeah, that's
how he almost got us into World War III.
That sounds like the reason why he went bankrupt as many times as he did.
Yeah, because impulsive behaviors.
A history of poor decisions.
A lot of people with money with impulsive behaviors will start businesses they don't care about after a while.
Read these 2 paragraphs about Cartman specifically.
Okay, Cartman and ASPD and /CD. We see Cartman engage in this type of behavior constantly. I don't think I need to detail the episodes, but some of the prominent episodes I've watched are Fat Camp, the wacky molestation adventure. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading from your computer. Scott Tenorman Must Die, Freak Strike, The Passion of the Jew, Christian Rock Hard, Casa Bonita, ooh, that's a good one, Up the Down Steroid, Ginger Kids, and probably many more. Cartman is incredibly intelligent, capable of manipulating individuals. Kenny Dies, Scott Tenorman Must Die, probably, as well as the masses. The Passion, probably. For his advantage, able to read the psychology of other people very well. That episode. Inspire leadership, Ginger Kids, probably. The wacky molestation adventure. And is very business savvy as well. Cartman Land, for example. Christian Rock Hard, and probably Kenny Dies. Cartman's superior intelligence is often rendered useless by his impulsiveness and obsessions, blurring his view of the general picture. And that's another thing about psycho and sociopaths. They are very smart people, but they come off very fucking stupid because they think they can't be touched and they're very impulsive.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a good thing. The thing is, a lot of sociopaths and psychopaths I've encountered think they're fucking untouchable. And when they actually have to face consequences, their minds are fucking blown. Yeah. But that's ultimately their ultimate downfall. They don't see it coming.
I've had a recent run-in with a person that I would consider to be sociopathic. And he was known for being such a difficult human being, but he was incredibly out of touch with reality. Like to say that he was 100% unintelligent or stupid wouldn't be fully accurate. Like he, at the very least,
people are too layered just to say that.
He informed himself of things a lot, but that didn't fix the fact that he was out of touch. And being out of touch with humanity, in spite of all the information you have, it didn't matter what he did or didn't know. He can't fix the fact that he can't relate to anybody anyway.
Right. The things they lack, the thing about sociopaths and psychopaths, before I keep reading, you need to understand. If you're encountering one, you need to use these weaknesses against them. You need to use the fact that they're impulsive, and you need to plan better.
Well, that's assuming that you have to be around them.
No, sometimes you encounter them and don't even know until it's too late, until they start trying to ruin your fucking life. I know this. I have encountered this so many times. It's good to just stress that if you encounter one of these people and you don't realize you're putting up with them and you're in a situation where you are forced to deal with them, use their weaknesses against them. Yeah. A plan ahead, because they don't plan. And the more information you have right on file, the better. And make sure, just know that they're impulsive. They're not very smart as far as how they plan things because they think they're so much better than everybody else. So they don't have to face consequences. So by the time they do, use that against them.
These people are slaves.
Use their ego against them.
They're slaves to their own ego. They
love themselves for no reason.
They will not consider reality before their own interpretations of reality. Like, the world is only what they see it is.
Well, let me finish here real quick. These are also commonly seen as pitfalls among high-functioning psychopaths. Another element is as Cartman's obsession with power, or authority, which is a common driving motivation for most of Cartman's most psychopaths. That brings them pleasure in the feeling of having power over things. This power is a craving that is actually a major motivation for the remaining serial killers when sadism and psychotic mental disorders are taken out. Those sadists, which is not a personality disorder, but rather a simple personality trait, still make up for a vast majority of serial killers rather than psychopaths. And that I did know because I studied serial killers a lot in high school.
Right.
You don't have to be a total psycho to kill somebody. You have to be a sadist. You have to enjoy murder.
Yeah, psychopathy is actually a lot more common. Well, it's weirdly interesting. A psychopath that kills is actually less common than a psychopath that just exists and doesn't have the empathy to relate to anyone.
Do you remember the times that Cartman actually used his psychosis to help people by accident?
He did it in the Dog the Bounty Hunter.
I was going to say,
yeah.
That's one of my examples. I'm not saying Cartman's actions are defendable, but one time his power got to his head so hard he accidentally helped people he didn't mean to help.
Yeah.
By getting obsessed with being the hall monitor and having power, he started taking on this form of a Dog the Bounty Hunter type character. And he accidentally ended up revealing that the kindergarten teacher was having sex with Ike and she was a pedophile.
Yeah.
And it ended up spoiler alert, she ends up killing herself.
Yeah.
And basically they just writted a pedophile out of South Park because Cartman got up his own ass.
Right.
One of those few times. And he also ended up helping the cats during the cheesing episode. Because one thing I don't know, I think this is really interesting. Would you say Cartman is a socio and a psychopath? Because the thing is, he has sympathy for cats. Cats are the only creatures he seemed to care about.
Well, from my experience, I noticed that these particular disorders, they tend to concentrate around humans.
Not always, though. Some psychopaths start killing animals before they start killing people.
No, I'm just talking about sociopaths.
Well, I'm just saying, do you think he's a sociopath or a psycho or both? I think he's just sociopathic.
Yeah, me too. He certainly has some kind of antisocial personality disorder, however that may be.
He has empathy sometimes, but I mean, sure, it's more self-serving.
I noticed that his empathy, he has no empathy for human beings.
At all.
He only cares about himself as a human being, but he tends not to hurt animals. He's had lots and lots of pets. He's had pigs. He's had cats. But
he really loves cats. He really it's weird. So that's what sometimes you'll see these pieces of Cartman, which is why this comes back to the devouring mother situation, because I don't think if Liane had raised him the way that she had, this probably would have been a pretty controlled situation. At most, he might be just a little narcissistic.
Well, that was the point that the episode was making, because if Cartman was a psychopath, as you established, psychopaths are born. Sociopaths are made. If Cartman was a psychopath, then nothing in that episode would have changed him. He was a sociopath, which is why there was a change toward the end, and Liane's behavior kickstarted his sociopathy again.
Here's an example. When he started learning from Cesar Millan, there's a part where he's like, I have to kill my mom because he was angry. And when he actually went to do it, he couldn't.
Yeah.
And then
he couldn't do it.
And then he puked up black bile.
Yeah.
All over the rug. And I'm like, this dude, I mean, sure, he killed Scott Tenorman's parents, but he actually didn't kill them. He had them killed.
Yeah, he created a situation where they end up being murdered. He didn't do the deed himself.
Not that makes him any better. I mean, Charles Manson did the same thing. But my point is, it's like, and if he's doing all this at 9 and he's not a born psychopath, like someone like Dennis Reynolds or something, then...
That's a great example. Because Dennis Reynolds had a devouring mother, too.
Well, that was
That's a very good example. I didn't even think of that until you brought it up.
Both the Reynolds twins are so fucked up, and we find out later that Deandra Reynolds is fucking worse than fucking Dennis.
Well, his was funny. Deandra Reynolds and Dennis Reynolds from Always Sunny
in Philadelphia.
They actually had, not only did they have a devouring mother, but they had a golden child black sheep situation that has actually extended into Deandra's adult life.
And it broke those kids so bad. But the point is, what we're trying to make here is it's easy for a mother to take a perfectly healthy kid or a kid that's generally pretty healthy and fuck him up really bad.
Yeah. That's what Liane Cartman did. I forget the name of Dennis and Dee's mom.
Oh, what the fuck was her name?
They just called her Mrs. Reynolds all the time before she died.
Yeah, nobody cared because she was such a horrible bitch.
Yeah, but Dennis ended up... Well, here's the story of Dennis. Dennis and Dee thought for years that their father was Frank. Turns out he wasn't. Their father's actually a man named Bruce Mathis. Mrs. Reynolds favored Dennis and devoured him because he looks like Bruce Mathis. And she didn't favor Dee because she doesn't.
But that also comes up...
in spite of the fact that they're actually fraternal twins.
Because she wasn't with Bruce, and she was with Frank, but, their marriage was rocky, too. A lot of times, single mothers or mothers who have kind of rocky marriages or just don't really get along with their husbands, will kind of use their sons as replacement husbands.
Yeah.
And that in turn causes the mother to abuse the daughter if there is a daughter. That was my situation growing up.
Right.
My mom disrespected my father. She coveted my brother. And with the coveting of my brother, she turned back around and abused me. The only thing is I didn't let it break me like it broke Dee.
Yeah, I saw similar things from my mom and my sister. She abused all of us. You know, two sons, including me, and
in
my
different ways. She abused you all different ways.
And 4 daughters, my 4 sisters. She abused us all in different ways, but she was especially like her abuse on my sisters was different, very different from me.
More physical, right?
It was a lot more physical, and there was a lot more contempt in it. It's like she treated them as if she didn't like the fact that they were alive.
And this is just unhealthy parenting in general. It's not even just single moms or even moms with rocky marriages. If you are a person who had children and you haven't gotten through your mental health bullshit and you haven't grown as a person, you haven't evolved or whatever, what's going to end up happening is you are subconsciously sometimes going to treat your child of the opposite of the same sex as you like shit, and you're going to treat the kid of the opposite sex like a god.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
And it's not just with devouring moms. There are devouring fathers too. T.I. is a great example of that.
Can we talk about T.I.?
Yeah, because I mean, I'm going to be fair. I don't know his home situation, but I do know this is a symbol of a devouring father. A father who covets his daughter's virginity.
Yeah. T.I., let's just explain.
That is really toxic.
So toward the end of last year, an article came out.
Or at this point, it could have been this year. I fucking lost track, to be honest.
No, well, it don't matter. Point is, in recent memory, between 2019 and 2020, an article came out revealing the fact that T.I., when he takes his daughter to her gynecology
virginity
appointments,
testing.
He pays a doctor to do virginity testing where he tests to see if her hymen is still there so he can control her sex life before she even has one.
Now, biologically and of itself and scientifically, that's stupid because hymens break for various reasons. And sometimes even if you lose your virginity, the hymen may not break immediately.
There's evidence of how ignorant T.I. was of this because when he was questioned about it, he referred to his daughter's labia as a uvula.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's the thing in the back of your throat. And I mean, again, I understand like if you forget a word or mix words up in your head, but I don't think that's what that case was. Because judging by his ignorance about how virginity works and pussies work.
I noticed that devouring parents tend to pop up a lot in Southern cultures. T.I. came from a Southern culture. My mom did. Your mom did.
Well, it comes from that. Let me explain why. Because already, now I'm like, again, this isn't like everybody in the South is dumb or anything. I grew up in the South. Well,
yeah.
West Virginia, we fought for the North, but we were basically a Southern state.
Right.
We just didn't want slaves.
Union State in the South.
Yeah, it's still like...
Yeah.
It's still Southern to like New York or whatever. I think this is... And for when it comes to toxic moms and dads, the devouring parents in the Southern culture, the people who are less educated are like this. The people who are less educated, the people who are racist... Usually it's people who are homophobic, people who haven't really left their town much, or as people just are not deeply intelligent.
And people just obsessed with control.
Yeah. But I'm saying usually it's not a very intelligent person. Now, my mom was really smart, but that's why she snowplowed and was less devouring, because she figured out a way to abuse me in 2 directions.
Yeah, from what I'm told, she was a pretty smart woman.
Yeah, weirdly. Let's just put it this way. I have her intelligence and none of her evil, so everybody's safe. But... That's like usually it's uneducated people who obviously know nothing about biology or reproductive health or any of that shit. They just make assumptions, and the idea of them being with anybody other than them scares them. And I get it. Like having a kid grow up in front of you, it can be pretty heartbreaking. I know for a fact if I have a kid one day and they're going to be like, no, mommy, I do by myself. I'm going to be like, that's fine. I'm so proud of you for being independent. And I'm going to go cry into a pillow somewhere. I understand it's hard watching your kids grow up.
Yeah.
But if you smother them and take away their independence, you're insane. Like straight up, there's something wrong with you. And you need to take a step back if you're a controlling parent and ask yourself, what the fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah. It only destroys the kid in the long term.
Because look at Eric Cartman. He had potential.
Yeah, Eric has a lot of potential.
Because he's smart. So obviously he could have, and you see it when they finally get him on a good behavioral pattern. He's quite a good kid. He does his own homework.
Right.
He does it on time. He eats his fruits and vegetables. He starts, being healthier. He starts having a healthier relationship with his mother. He starts saying please and thank you. And also, that's just one example of what could happen to a kid. Not every kid with a devouring mother becomes a sociopath. That's an extreme version of it. There's people like me who had abuse growing up in some way and decided to take a step back from it and try to go the opposite direction and be healthier.
Yeah.
Because they didn't like the direction they were going in. There's
that
a lot
happens.
of outcomes, but I'm just saying that's just one that could happen.
But even then, you got negative side effects. Like me, for example, there's a lot of stuff that I had to learn late. There's a lot of stuff I still don't know.
Same.
Because of the situation I was in. Like, for example, my food choices and my taste palette is incredibly limited because I was fed the same thing
That was
all
less
the time.
devouring parent and more negligence and laziness on your mother's part because she said flat out she wouldn't cook for you and shit.
Well, she didn't say it. She just didn't do it.
What? I thought she said straight up like you had to just... I thought there was one point she said that.
No, she just didn't like doing it. She never said it. It was just something that I observed.
Yeah, but it was pretty clear she didn't want to. Like, if you don't want to provide a healthy meal for your kid, it's pretty obvious when you don't.
Yeah, but my point is, even if you have come out of this on the lighter end of things the way we did, there's still going to be some residual fallout.
There's obstacles. In Liane's case, not everything Liane did was wrong. The fact that she wanted to provide for her son in ways that she didn't have, or she wanted him to have everything he wanted and, what he needed. That's any mom. They want to give the best to their kid and make sure they're happy. But the thing is, like, for example, the iPad episode.
Yeah.
The way he threw a fit over that, and she and you see times where she tries to discipline him. And even though it's a rough animation, you can sort of see the inner struggle in her. Because there was that iPad episode where he was tantruming in the store. She said, we're going to leave without anything if you don't stop tantruming about me buying you the generic iPad.
Well, I was going to bring that up because I noticed that only after Cartman became so bad she couldn't avoid it did she start actually trying to be a parent. Before that, when it was more subtle, like in the earlier seasons when he was like inconsistently antisocial, she basically didn't acknowledge his humanity at all. She talked to him like he was some kind of cult object, like she had a child fetish. To quote George Carlin, she
was in denial. That's all it was. I really do genuinely think she knew this was happening, but was afraid to admit it.
Well, you know why she treats Cartman like that, and why she actually is a textbook devouring mother, right?
Well, why? Because his dad wasn't in the picture, and she needed to replace.
Well, that's exactly it.
Yeah, that's why.
Liane, but it's specific. Like Liane Cartman, she was so promiscuous that she ended up having sex with the entire Denver Broncos roster at the time.
That's what it was. I thought it was a party she was at. But
no, it was a Denver Broncos. She had sex with all of them at the time. At the same time, that roster. She didn't know who the father of Cartman was.
And she wasn't really tracking who it was at the time because she just wasn't paying attention.
But the thing is, she didn't even know it was the Denver Broncos because that wasn't even her whole night. That like she was having sex with so many men.
Or not even the whole night because it could have been in a week span.
But she was having sex with so many unprotected men that even the entire team of the Denver Broncos weren't a large enough number for her to track who the potential father was. Which is why Cartman, it was episode 200 and 201, the banned episodes of South Park. Very few people have seen it. I have. They explain, spoilers, that Eric Cartman's father not only was a member of the Denver Broncos, but he actually was Scott Tenorman's dad.
Yeah, he's actually... In turn, he murdered his own dad.
He murdered his own father by accident, and his half brother was Scott Tenorman.
Karma. That's just that's just karma. But yeah. That's the point. It's like there's so many layers and depths to Liane Cartman, but you could see when that switch flipped where she's like, my kid's too out of control, and she cried desperately to other adults for help. And it doesn't help that everyone in that town's a fucking moron. So even when she tried to get other parents to help her, they had no clue how to help her. Yeah. Because almost every parent in South Park is just as fucked up as she is.
The fact that they live in South Park, even Wendy Testerberger's parents are
I was going to point out the stupid spoiled whore episode.
Like, even, because the three most stable characters in the show are Wendy's, Butters, and Kenny. Wendy Butters and Kenny.
There's actually 4. You're not counting Token.
Oh, yeah, and Token. I forgot about
But his parents
Token.
are good. In fact, the only good parents in South Park are Token's parents.
Probably
Token's
Token.
Token's parents,
yeah. Token, yeah, because, they stay out of other people's stuff. This is why you rarely see Token.
Money.
This is why you rarely see Token in any episodes, because he's so low drama.
He's just chilling.
You know, like most of the time, Cartman has to go to him to fuck with his life to see anything.
The Stotches are fucked up.
The Stotches.
The Marsh. I don't think Sharon's bad. It's Randy. It's all Randy ruining everything.
Yeah. Well, Sharon has her moments.
Well, Sharon's broken because of Randy.
She did try to cheat on Randy with a shake weight.
I would have too.
Yeah, he was cheating on her with cream free, so.
I mean, first of all, it was a shake weight. It wasn't like she was out dicking other people. I mean, she might as well get her pleasure somewhere. And, you know, all of the parents in South Park are fucked up. And I feel actually very sorry for Liane Cartman, because she wants so much to raise a good kid, but she just does not have the strength and courage to do so. But like I said, the iPad episode, there are several occasions where she's like, now, Eric, I will not, but she breaks immediately. Her problem was, and they pointed this out, that she is not consistent. She does not stay on top of this. And she caves when he gets...
Yeah, when he starts doing that annoying thing.
And whining and crying, his little crocodile tears and shit.
The thing is, I don't necessarily believe that Liane wanted to be a good parent until after her kid became unavoidable. But when Cartman became too evil to deny, that's when she realized she needed to be a good parent. Because before that, I don't think she cared about being a parent. I think she just wanted a companion. I think she wanted to not be alone.
Well, that might be the case, but I think she genuinely loved her son, and I think she did want what was best for him. But I think the fact that I think it wasn't that she didn't want to be a good parent. I don't think she knew how.
No, yeah, that's a good point.
The thing is, not everyone is designed to be a parent. And it's not something you should take lightly. That is a lifetime responsibility. People say it's 18 years, and it's not.
No, it's not.
Your kids are in your life forever until you die or they die. Yeah. One of you is going to fucking die, and that's it. But you commit to that kid, because, you know, even when that kid's 30, they're going to be like, Mom, my girlfriend and I broke up. You know, you're going to have to get through a lot of shit with them.
Well, if you're lucky enough, you'll have the kid who will come to you at 30 and still act like they're a kid with you.
Well, that's my point. It's
if you're lucky.
Children are not supposed to be your best friend while they're children.
No.
They are supposed to be your best friends when they're adults.
Yeah.
The way you get that is by having have fun with your kids, do crazy and fun shit with them, but, you know, you have to draw a line and have discipline somewhere.
Yeah, they need those boundaries so that they can learn to establish those boundaries for themselves and others.
Or otherwise, they're going to get out of control like Eric.
Right.
To the point where even standard discipline won't work anymore.
And Eric has no boundaries at all. I mean... None.
He's not above murder. No,
this little kid literally
not above like rape, murder, all of that shit.
He spent a whole episode making fun of breast cancer just to piss off Wendy, and he hates Wendy specifically because she's the anti-Cartman.
And then she beat the fuck out of him, which was hilarious.
Oh my god, yeah.
First of all, Wendy...
She beat the entire shit out of him.
Wendy, she's more stable than I was as a kid, but she's smarter than most kids.
She grew into it because her early days was just as messed up as
But I was
else.
a little bit like Wendy growing up. I was a very nice girl, and I wanted to do what was right for the world, and I was very concerned about where the world was going and shit like that. And I would get very violently angry with guys like that acted like assholes at me just to piss me off.
If Wendy
I think I've even punched a few for it.
If Wendy Testerberger was real, she would be the first female president if there was none before her.
I'd fucking vote for her while she was 9.
That's how stable Wendy Testerberger. Matter of fact, between Wendy Testerberger and Lisa Simpson, I will put my money on Wendy.
Lisa actually has a lot of low-key problems I'm very concerned about.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But that's irrelevant. But with Wendy, her parents are fucked up. Like in the Stupid Spoiled Whore episode, the Paris Hilton episode.
Yeah.
That was probably roughly around 2008.
Yeah, I think so.
That was when Paris was at her peak, like 2007, 2008.
Right.
They talk about, there's a store that opens up, and it's about, you know, back in the 2007s when girls thought being shallow was cute and everybody was wearing thongs, and it was all about lip gloss and sexual promiscuity.
Right.
And, you know, again, at Jug O Sip, we're very pro people being sexually promiscuous as long as it's not hurting anybody. If you're being safe and you're just doing it for fun, that's great. But children should not be doing it.
If your sex life is non-destructive and you're not a kid, then it's fine.
Yeah, but these children should not be doing it. And these were like little girls as young as 9 having like making sex tapes and stuff like that at the, you know, hand of, and talking about role models and things like that. And Wendy came to her parents and you know, it's already hard to come and tell your parents your concerns about the world. And, you know, if your parents are especially toxic, it's very hard to talk to your parents. Mm-hmm. And especially when you're smarter than your parents like she is. Yeah. So she's like, I'm concerned about the development of role models for girls my age. And, you know, and I mean, it was all like, if my daughter said that to me, I'd be like, okay, what are your concerns? Because I'm loving this conversation. Like, I love the direction. Instead, this dude drags his daughter down at the store to have an outrage. And first of all, he didn't even give a shit about girls being sexually promiscuous until she said she was going to buy a thong. Right. Which, strike one, that's already like, okay, well, you're coveting your daughter's sexuality, but you don't give a fuck about it, and you're a hypocrite because when other women do it, it's fine. Mm-hmm. So he goes down to the store to have this alleged outrage, and then instead he gets swept up into the sexual liberation of it. Which, again, sexual liberation is great if you're not fucking 9. Well, this wasn't sexual liberation. This was toxic sexuality. And that masquerading was liberation. That's what I mean. He was tricked into thinking it was the other. No, he wasn't tricked anyway. He was just, he was manipulated by pussy. Those girls were like, do you want to buy me a bag? And he's like, Wendy, I think this is a great... But he only said it was a good idea when he started having young girls rubbing on him. Yeah, he was an ignorant ass horny dude. That's all. Like, that's not... that's what I'm trying to get to here. That's not healthy parenting. That's a dumbass. Right. So, I mean, none of the parents in South Park, none of them are any good. Outside of Token's parents. The McCormicks are just kind of dumb. I don't think they're necessarily bad people. No, they're not dumb. They're just drug addicts. That's what it is. They have so many bad habits because they had they're poor specifically because they're drug addicts. This is also why Kenny's a drug addict. Randy Marsh is just insane. Yeah, Randy Marsh. He's totally useless, really. Randy Marsh is such a prolific narcissist that he can't help but destroy a life around him. He is such a prolific narcissist, he became Lord. Yeah. There was a whole episode about it revealed that Randy Marsh was Lord under a pseudonym. Like he was. That's because he was parading as a teenage New Zealand girl. Randy Marsh has a musical impulse just like Stan does, and Shelley. But Stan and Shelley are actually better than Randy. I mean, Shelley has a lot of issues, but I think she's going to outgrow a lot of that stuff. I think she's going to be fine. Yeah, but Randy, like he was Steamy Ray Vaughan for a little while. Then he was Lord. Right. Then he's very talented. He's so crazy and narcissistic. He gets obsessed with shit. First, he got obsessed with being Lord and all this other shit. Then he got obsessed with Cream Fraiche. Then he was obsessed with Integrity Farms. Then he got obsessed with cock magic. Then it was getting obsessed with medical weed. Yeah, medical weed. Which is probably why he opened Integrity Farms, because he gave himself ball cancer to get fucking medical weed. Yeah, then he got obsessed with the idea of curing spontaneous combustion. I forgot about that. Well, that was right. That was that fart episode. That's right. Where you were holding in farts. Yeah, he kept fantasizing about women coming up to him. He was like, please have sex with me, Randy. Like that was a whole thing. Randy's out of his fucking mind. So, I mean. And now Stan's getting a bit of it because he's been exposed to his dad. So now Stan is becoming a narcissist too. Sheila Brovlowski's a snowplow parent. You think Sheila's a snowplow? Oh, Sheila. I'm sorry. I was still thinking about the Marshes. Yeah, no, Sheila's definitely. Sharon's great. Sheila Brovlowski. Yeah. Dude, the entire Mothers Against Canada. Yeah. That was so bad that Kyle ended up doing that later. They wrote, first of all, it was written by Cartman, and Cartman's biased, but he wasn't wrong when he wrote the song Kyle's Mom's a Bitch. Yeah. Now I noticed Sheila became a better character after the episode where they reveal she's from Jersey. Yeah, because it humbled the fuck out of her. That knocked her down quite a few pegs. And just old age, but like middle age and shit started chilling her out a little bit. Right. But the Jersey episode explained why she was so damn aggressive. And I mean, I don't think even Sheila was a bad mom. I think everything she was doing was out of love, but she doesn't listen. Her immediate reaction is, what? And then just goes immediately to snowplow into the scenario. Yeah, like without even listening to Kyle or Ike. Like that whole thing when she started buying holistic medicine exclusively from that woman misinformation. Like Kyle needed a fucking kidney? Yeah. Yeah, that was also another incident where Cartman was a sociopath because they had to trick him into giving a kidney to Kyle. Yeah, because he was the only one in town who had a match. He literally was holding it above Kyle's head that he could be in charge of his life. Like, oh great, let's give the kid with a god complex power. That's a great idea. Right. Yeah. Personally, if I were them, but I'm smarter than them, I would have just never told him he was a match and just taken it anyway, like they ended up having to do anyway.
Pretty much, yeah. But people want to do the right thing. That's the problem with sociopaths and devouring mothers. You try to live your life the right way, but they're so determined to do it wrong because it works for them that it becomes impossible to live around.
Well, they're not coming from a place of reason or logic.
No.
They're coming from a place of pure emotion. The reason,
and selfishness.
Like I said, it loops back to Liane's reason for being a devouring mother. She doesn't want to get left.
No, she doesn't want to be alone.
She knows how hard it is to date as a single mother. I mean, it's really hard. Single moms already get judged so harshly for having a social life.
But she was having problems with men leaving her before she was
But that's what I mean. She was already having those issues, and then having a child on top of that really fucked it up.
Yeah.
And I think she thought when Eric was born, she would never be alone again.
Yeah.
But, that's the thing about babies. They become people.
Right.
Well, they're born people, but they become like human adults.
They become adults.
They're not just that mushy thing you shove into your tit to feed for the rest of their lives. They become human beings with like goals and ambition, all that shit. And if you treat your kid like an object, this sort of shit happens.
The thing is the other extreme of it is that sometimes they'll grow up into adults who become obsessed with their moms, and then you go from devouring mother to Oedipus child. Or
you get the opposite, where they hate their fucking mothers and don't even answer their mom's phone call, and their mom's self-fulfilling prophecy of their kid leaving them happens.
Right.
See, like, even if you don't do NC with like toxic moms, you'll still have that weird rift and that wall between them because of the fact that like that mom created this issue. It's a very Freya situation.
Oh, Freya from
specifically the story of God
Freya
of War.
Was a devouring mother. That's right.
She didn't have ill intent either. She was actually a very deeply good person.
And Balder became a sociopath. An immortal sociopath that would literally put a child in danger and his father while they were on their way.
And hers was done by magic, but it doesn't need to be done by magic. That was just symbolism to how a mother could overprotect her kid to the point where the kid resents them and turns against everyone.
Yeah.
And I mean, Freya wasn't evil at all. We saw that. She wasn't evil.
Well, one good thing about her is that her crossing paths with Kratos allowed Kratos to realize what he was doing was wrong. Because if he didn't cross paths with Freya, then he wouldn't have realized that he was being a devouring father to Atreus.
Well, and that's the thing about these sociopaths and these devouring moms and these people out there living life all sorts of fucking wrong. They suck to deal with in society. Yeah. But goddamn, they're good learning lessons.
Yeah. They're excellent learning lessons for how not to be, if you're open to it.
That's the benefit of it anyway. Like, yeah. Even your own mothers, even if your mom's not a devouring mom, a snowplow mom, or a fucked up mom in any way, even their mistakes can be great. Even if the only mistake your mom ever made in your entire life was one time she yelled at you and lost her temper at you in a very hard manner that you didn't like and it made you both sad, that's still a learning lesson. Yeah. Yeah. Like anything that in life can be a learning lesson, but usually those things that our parents did wrong or people did wrong teach us to be better.
If you guys out there listening have any stories of devouring mothers or personal experiences, please let us know.
Or any toxic mom situation where it led to like something like this.
Yeah, because, there are a lot of very complicated negative issues in the human experience that need to be addressed.
And we try to address them all here.
Yeah. And, we speak a lot about bigotry and racism, homophobia, things like that. Yeah. But humans have other problems that exist that really make it hard to be around us.
They might be smaller problems or even more rare.
Yeah, you got devouring mothers, you got helicopter fathers, you got, snowplow parents.
Or like the TI situation where the father's too covetous of his daughter's sexuality.
So you got TIs, you got Liane Cartmans, you got, Mrs. Reynolds.
You got some Sheila Brovlowskis
you got,
the Stotches even.
Yeah, the Stotches.
Where the mother was completely checked out and the father...
Well, the mother's sense of reality was already razor thin, and the dad was taking advantage of it by being a closeted homosexual.
Butter's mom was never stable, ever. No, she was like the episode where she finds out her husband has been having gay affairs. She literally drove Butters into the fucking lake.
Actually, I read this somewhere, but like the most extreme extent of devouring mothers actually are mothers that literally kill their children. That's a form of devouring. So she was a devouring mother in a way,
not
too.
Every mother that kills her child is a devouring mother. Sometimes there's other mental health issues. Like Andrea Yates is a great example. You know about her? No. Andrea Yates was this was years back. This is I think I was in high school. Andrea Yates was a deeply religious woman who had kids all named after like biblical characters. She had 5 kids. And she lived one of those traditional conservative housewife lives.
Yeah.
But I don't remember what you should look it up. She had an actual mental condition. I think it was schizophrenia or something where like it literally was so bad. I don't think she should have ever had kids, period. Because I'm not saying she should be forgiven for killing her kids, but I think she literally had such a mental health issue that she shouldn't have been a mom anyway. Yeah, this was in 2007, the year I graduated high school. She drowned all 5 of her kids.
She had been suffering sometime from very severe postpartum
psychosis,
depression, psychosis, and schizophrenia. And
you know what? First of all, I have no doubt that postpartum psychosis played into this because I was on an IUD shortly actually after I had an abortion, like literally that same week. And my doctors assured me that I was going to be okay. And I went completely insane on that IUD. I thought thoughts I never thought I would think. I got really crazy in my own head. So hormones do play a lot into this. I'm not excusing what she did, but I am saying that probably was part of it. So Andrea Yates is one of those cases where this person has always been mentally ill. She had children which she shouldn't have had. And they pushed her into, because if you're already having mental health issues and you have a kid, that could really fuck you up.
Yeah, I think because she already had schizophrenia. I think the postpartum depression exacerbated something that was already there.
The hormones took whatever was there and made it worse. And then her husband didn't, give a shit about that and left her alone with these kids knowing she was suffering all of this pain.
Yeah,
and I mean, even the best of moms could fucking have moments where their kid drove them insane and they even considered it. Like my aunt, when she was left alone and her husband was in the military and he was hardly ever home, he came home one day and found her crying and clutching the baby and a teddy bear thrown against the wall because the baby would not stop crying, and she threw the teddy bear because for a brief second she wanted to throw that baby.
Right.
So, I mean, mothers already can be pushed to a place they never thought their brains would go. And if you're already mentally ill and you don't have a supportive system like Andrea Yates probably didn't have, it probably made it so much worse. In Butter's mom's case, what's her name? Look up what Butter's mom's name.
Yeah, okay.
Because I just want to close this out because I like talking about these sort of things, mental health issues, etc. Oh, no, she drowned them in 2001. I was in middle school. That was even,
Linda
Stotch. I couldn't remember her name. Linda Stotch had already been beaten down emotionally somehow. They don't really explain it, but you can just see that she's a very broken and fragile person. It even says here on Comedy Central's description, an emotionally and psychologically fragile woman. She's a native Hawaiian. And she's submissive to her husband. So what happened with Linda is you already have a woman who's already kind of broken, married to a husband that just takes advantage of her brokenness. And after finding out her husband had been having affairs and had been gay this whole time, she drove her son into a lake, which fortunately he survived. But
she's an engineer.
Yeah, that
explains Butter's,
resourcefulness.
Yeah, because he's super resourceful, especially as Professor Chaos.
And that's my point. It's I think in Linda's case, she was already broken and she turned into a devouring mother because her husband broke her more.
Yeah.
And Stephen Stotch is a piece of shit. He's a self-serving sack of shit. And, it's one thing if you marry somebody, especially in the older generations where you realize you were gay later on. There's a way to come about that, though. To come out while you're married or to, that's hard. But there's a way to do that in a civil and respectable way. Be honest about how you're feeling. Don't sneak around and, lie and cheat and all that stuff. You just tell the person what you're feeling and be honest. But Stephen was like, oh, my wife's broken anyway. I'm going to just go tell her I'm going to go buy an anniversary present or whatever. She's just going to sit home and be Linda.
Right.
And I'm going to just go let people fuck me in this bathhouse and then come home act like nothing happened. And if it wasn't for Butters trying to spy on, on Stephen for a gift,
yeah,
he would have known. And then Linda had to trick Butters into going back out. And she was so mentally and emotionally unstable that instead of swallowing, a healthy person would be like, I can't believe you saw this, or, your kid saw this. I'm devastated. I'm leaving your father. We're leaving. And a stable person would just not be with a liar in general.
Right.
And a cheater. But because she was so broken, she thought the problem was her. So she tried to kill herself and Butters. Yeah. She drove Butters into the river, then went home to write a note and then try to hang herself, which even in her plan to murder herself and her son, it didn't make any sense.
No.
Why didn't she write the letter before and then drive them both into the lake?
Well, I mean,
that's what I mean. Like that.
Look at her emotional.
No, I'm just saying, like
state.
that's how broken she was. She couldn't even properly plan a murder homicide.
Yeah.
Or murder suicide. She couldn't even do it.
I mean, the woman was completely messed up.
But yeah, no, and that's what we're kind of talking about in general with South Park parents, and I guess that's the whole point. Is like there's a lot of fucked up parenting in South Park.
We'll probably do a whole nother episode just talking about the messed up parents of South Park
and the good adults of South Park. That
just the family unit situation. Yeah, that
because
South
there's
Park
even
has.
like there's even good parental type people on South Park that actually aren't parents.
Yeah,
Mr. Slave.
Yes, Mr. Slave. Okay, well, we'll
wrap this up, and we'll talk about all that shit on another episode.
Yeah, let's give them their final remarks. What you got to tell them?
Basically, I think what we can learn from Liane Cartman specifically, because that was who this episode was mostly about.
Yeah,
is it's okay to love your kids, but don't have kids until you are complete within yourself. If you do not have children when you are in a good place, or as good a place as you can be, in a stable place, you're going to end up somehow breaking your child in ways that you were either broken yourself or so much worse. Your kids are not created to complete you. You created these people because you wanted to love somebody and help create a person in this world that's decent. So do that. Don't fuck up your kids by needing them too much. They need to be able to depend on you, not the other way around. They're not the parents, you are.
Okay. Well said. So final remarks from me. If you have a mom that hurt you, address these pains before you hurt someone else or yourself.
And if you have hurt somebody, which I'm sure anybody who was abused has, learn from it. Try to make amends if it's possible. Hopefully it wasn't in such a way that it was, completely damaging. Mm-hmm. And as long as it wasn't like abuse or sexual abuse or whatever, just learn to be better. Yeah,
if you can help it. Not all of us can, but if you're fortunate enough to be one of the people in this world who can help it, please do the work.
And if you were ever
because you'll be happier, and so will everyone else around you. If you were ever a toxic
parent or a toxic partner to somebody, just be better. Just carry on and do better. Yeah. Learn from those mistakes.
All right.
Guilt is a wasted emotion. Don't have guilt. Replace guilt with growth.
Right. Okay. Well,
that's it. Yeah.
That's it for this episode.
And we'll be back soon.
Yeah. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.